There is this touching story of Shah Jahan spending his last few years imprisoned in the Agra fort. Just think about that situation. You were an emperor once upon a time, and then your own son imprisons you, and you have to spend your last few years in that room over there. The only memories that he has, which he can give him some solace, would be that of his beloved wife, Mumtaz. And fortunately, that room had a window which overlooked the tomb that he had made for his beloved. That tomb that we know as the Taj Mahal. Now, this talk is not really about the Taj Mahal. This talk is also not directly about beauty, though I will be giving some references to that, because the subject of beauty is very deep and there are much better people who may have opined on it. Instead, I want to talk about a layer just beneath true beauty, and that is possibly exemplified by that room where Shah Jahan was imprisoned. So this room, if you were to personify that room as a person, that room was actually giving the right opportunity for Shah Jahan to look at this Taj Mahal. There was this window over there, and it was positioned in that manner that he could actually see the view of the Taj Mahal. Now imagine that situation, imagine that person, that room being a person, and that person refuses to provide that opportunity. The window is located somewhere else. Obviously, that would be a little disconcerting for Shah Jahan, right? I mean, imagine he is at the Agra fort and he could have seen the view of the Taj Mahal from there, but he couldn't because the window was not in that location. Unfortunately, that person, the room that is, was a very considerate person, and that person was very lovable. So in those last few years which Shah Jahan spent in that room, that particular person, that is the room, gave Shah Jahan the opportunity to see the Taj Mahal and maybe obtain certain peace and private moments with those memories. So what I want to point out in this talk is that why is it that a lot of architects tend to think that architecture is all visual beauty? Because before you reach that level of visual beauty, you have to make whatever you have designed very lovable. And it has to come gracefully in layers. Architecture, as I personified in that room, if you personify it in other places also, architecture is what I would call as a servant leader. A servant leader is a leader who considers that the team that person is leading to be very important, and that such a leader is a servant to that team. Architecture is like that. Architecture is a servant leader. That leader has to be there all the time, giving small little touching moments just as that user needs it. So you have maybe the table at the right height. You have to have the window opening in the right way, the way it happened in Shah Jahan's case. You have to have all kinds of different things, and just as you expect things to happen, that particular piece of architecture should provide that. And if it didn't, then that is one step which is gone, and you may start getting irritated. You need the nice breeze across your face and your body in a hot, humid climate. And if that piece of architecture didn't give that, it made it less lovable. So there are a lot of things which are needed to be achieved. And you have to really work on it and make sure that you really weave all those layers into your design before you can even start thinking about how it looks. But for some reason, people jump at the deep end and then start looking at architecture as if it's all about the visual beauty. There are many difficulties which happen before somebody can truly appreciate beauty. At the highest level, beauty can only be understood holistically. That means as a whole. You need to get the entire picture of that particular thing, which is beautiful. Imagine you meet a person who superficially looks very handsome if he's a male, or very beautiful if he's a female, if that's the right way to describe them. But as you keep meeting them and have encounters with such a person, you find that, okay, this person is not really so lovable in such a situation. Or that person has certain really bad traits which is not lovable at all. So you kind of reduce your respect or what have you about that person, and eventually that person may not really look so beautiful. Whereas you look at it the other way around. If you had something, anything, it could be a person also, and if that thing grows on you and it is serving the purpose as you need it, and it is really sitting down and being empathetic to you, then that is one necessary step on the way to beauty. And after that, once it starts becoming beautiful, then you truly, means if it is visually beautiful, then you can actually connect all of it together, and you find that yes, that person or that thing is really truly beautiful because it was so lovable to begin with. So being lovable is a very necessary part of whatever you do, especially as an architect. If you design something and if your design is not behaving like a servant leader, and it is not serving the needs of the persons, the people's using that project or being affected by that project, then the next layer, the topmost layer of this, which is beauty, will never be reached. There is this wonderful interview. You must take some time and see that interview. It's Dustin Hoffman talking about his role as a woman. He was dressed up as a woman. He was made up as a woman in this movie called Mrs. Doubtfire, where he plays the role of a divorcee and he wants to be with his family despite being divorced. So in that story, he dresses up as a woman, and the rest happens in the movie. You can see the movie. But it's not about the movie. When he was getting made up by his makeup man, it was a pretty good makeup. He could really move around, and people did not guess that it was actually Dustin Hoffman over there. So one day he looked at himself in the mirror and he didn't find the result very attractive. So he asked the makeup man, can you do something better, that I want to look like a pretty woman. I'm looking like a woman, all right, and that's fine, but I want to make myself prettier. But the makeup man shrugged his shoulders and said, that's all what I can do with you. That's how you are made. So this is all what you can get. That's when he had a kind of a bulb going off in his head, an epiphany. And he started thinking about it. Because in that character is actually a very lovable person in that movie. That person who was a woman over there. But that person was not pretty in the conventional sense. So he's thinking about it, he started crying. He said that, you know what, as a male, I have looked at beauty and I never even gave a glance to people who looked anything less. I mean, women, anything less. So then it struck him that he must have missed the opportunity of interacting with really lovable women. And he must have missed some really important things happening in his life, because he gravitated towards what was visually beautiful without realizing that there are very, very nice, lovable people out there who just didn't happen to look pretty. It's the same thing with buildings. There are so many buildings out there, so much piece of architecture, so many architects pay devoted attention to make their projects lovable, but it may not reach the level of beauty as for various reasons. Maybe the contractor didn't do a good job, maybe the material was not particularly good, maybe the architect did make some few mistakes, which was probably, as far as looks were concerned, it affected the looks, but it was not affecting other lovable qualities of that project. So there are many reasons why something does not really look good, or maybe the architect probably didn't care much about the beauty, and instead spent a lot of time weaving in all the required things so that that particular architecture serves as a servant leader for the occupants of that project. The users of a project are very complex. It's not that, okay, if I design, say for example, if I design a house for just one person, say an artist, a male artist in his 40s. So you may think there's just one user over there. No, there are actually countless number of users. That man as a male, of course, is one user. That man as an artist is another user having other requirements. That man in his 40s is a third kind of user. That man who's left-handed or right-handed, another kind of layer of expectations which needs to be satisfied. So even with just one person using that space which you're designing, they all need to be catered to, all the roles need to be catered to. There are multiple personalities in the same person. The same person, when he's behaving as a father who is probably calling his daughter from that small house which you're designing for him, his expectations would be different from that man as an artist. So there are multiple layers which that architect has to sit and think through, and he has to really be, spend time thinking about all the kinds of things which need to happen, and sometimes they may contradict. Sometimes the artist, the person as an artist may like the smell of linseed oil, but the other person, which is not an artist, is having some health issues and probably should not be near such smells and oil and all that. So there is a lot of very complex things going on, even in the simplest of spaces. And it's in those spaces where you have to think about all these points. And once the architect thinks about all these points, and like the architect, whether it was done consciously or not, place that window opening right at the same location which Shah Jahan could see the Taj Mahal. So just in time, as you needed, the spaces and that built environment should respond to the users over there. That's what really architecture is, and that's how you really make architecture lovable. And there are plenty of examples. Unfortunately, people get drawn into the superficial images, especially with AI and all that, Instagram. I wonder, how can you sit down and say this is a lovely project when all you see is just one image? So that's a little weird. So when I work with TAD, I really spend a lot of time thinking about where the spaces are, where are people going from one space to the other, how are they going through that, what is happening in one room, all the kinds of users in that room, are they being satisfied? There are thousands of questions to be addressed. And indeed, it is a long time before you can really do a good job. So I don't think I'm any great architect or anything, but the fact that I'm pointed in that direction, hopefully I will start making sense in my final designs. I hope you will all take a look at my software and start using it and start making lovable projects before you make them beautiful. I mean, of course, you can make it beautiful simultaneously also. That's not the thing, but don't think that that is the only thing which you can do. You can't jump directly at the deep end and forget everything else in between. Thank you very much. I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you.